I'd like to welcome everyone to the Patriot Little League Junior Division All-Star Tournament.
I am beyond late in posting game breakdowns for especially the postseason, and I just was so swamped with umpiring that I just haven't had time to break down any of the videos. And I'm not really going to be going in any specific order. There were some games that I had a bunch of notes on, or potentially some close plays. And so this happened to be the first one that I'm posting from June 18th. But I have some older ones that I'm going to be doing as well. So, and what I'd like to do is post some breakdowns of the Little League World Series as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this, and look forward to posting some more here in the near future.
At this point, I'd like to do the...
Are you awake yet? Just checking. Watch R2 dislodge third base as he slides in, and just make a mental note of that. We're going to come back to that later. The pitcher, seeing third base vacant, steps up to cover wisely. But unfortunately, the throw is off the mark and the tag is not down in time. And this is great positioning by Dan over there at third base for the safe call. All right, so let's talk about this dislodged base. Do we call time, or do we let it play out? And if we're letting it play out, how do we handle that? Let's go to the Little League rule book, and really this rule conversation only applies to Little League, well, maybe other youth leagues that require breakaway bases, because higher levels of baseball don't have breakaway bases. Rule 708C in the Little League rule book covers what happens when a runner is tagged. Now, we didn't have a tag here, but for the purpose of this rule breakdown, let's say hypothetically the runner was tagged. You do not call time, you let it play out, and then you make a judgment based on these approved rulings that we're going to get into. So look at approved ruling number 2 that says, if the impact of a runner breaks a base loose from its position, no play can be made on that runner at that base if the runner had reached the base safely. So that approved ruling applies to R2. Now, there was no play on him, but that basically means that he's protected at that base. Not protected at any other base, but he's protected at that base. What we have here is actually covered under approved ruling 3. If a base is dislodged from its position during a play, any following runner on the same play shall be considered as touching or occupying the base if, in the umpire's judgment, that runner touches or occupies the dislodged bag or the point marked by the original location of the dislodged bag. Now, some breakaway bases, like what you have here, there's a base that is the original size of the top portion of the bag, and then there's the top portion that breaks away. But other breakaway bases, they have a very small kind of, maybe a round area that serves as the base. So when you have a base like this one, where you can clearly see what the original dimensions of the base was, then you don't have to make a judgment as to what is the point marked by the original location of the dislodged bag. But some breakaway bases, you do have to make that judgment. So here you can clearly see that the runner's hands are touching the bottom part of that breakaway base. But with some breakaway bases, you will have to make a judgment call as to where the original location of the dislodged bag was. And the runner has a choice at that point. They can either touch the dislodged bag, wherever it happens to be, or the original location of the dislodged bag. Now that the play is over and there's no further action possible, that's when we call time.
Number 11, Landon Bouchard. Number 12, Sean Fitzpatrick.
For plays at the plate, you're going to start at the point of plate and you're going to rotate from there based on where that play is going to take you. Now, most of the time, that means third base extended. However, sometimes that puts you right into the path of the thrown ball from the catcher at the backstop to the pitcher that's coming into cover. So you got to pick up where that throw's coming in, and you got to fight for your spot, but don't get in the way of that throw. Your ideal position is going to be 90 degrees to the tag to be able to see that clearly. Great positioning at first base by Brian in order to be able to see that pickoff play, and he's safe, but that was pretty close. By the way, did you see the possible obstruction by the first baseman's right foot? It looks like he may be partially blocking the bag with his right foot. From this angle, I can't really tell if that's obstruction, and it probably isn't. That said, it's definitely something to keep an eye out for, because if the fielder unfairly gains an advantage because they block that path back to the bag, then in that situation, you're going to call time and you're going to award that runner second base. Because if a play is being made on an obstructed runner, they get one base past the last legally occupied base, regardless of the fact that he was going back to first.
Oh, got him. There you go. Oh, got him. There you go.
The third base coach is waving R1. He's telling him to come, which is great. But he doesn't give any signals to the batter runner, who keeps running and gets himself into a rundown here. I didn't see any signals here, but I'm guessing he told his runner to go, which was not the play. We had coverage at home, and that was an easy out. This was kind of a weird play at home with the pitcher and catcher in the same spot. And you'll notice that the pitcher steps up here. He takes the throw right in front of the catcher. So I had perfect positioning for this play until I didn't, because the pitcher received the throw and the catcher was body blocking me. I couldn't get an angle. So I had to fight for what I could get and make the best call I could make from there. Fortunately for me, it was an easy call. This is me at my least graceful. I picked up the catcher's positioning too late, tried to get out of the way, and then nearly tripped right here as I stepped into a rut.
Yeah, there you go. Get through it.
Did you spot the offensive interference on this play? Let's watch it back. R1 is a bit lazy getting back to the bag, and he goes straight back in, and there's a little bit of contact right there with the first baseman. Let's break down this rule, which is under Rule 2 in the Little League rule book under interference, which says that offensive interference is an act by a member of the team at bat which interferes with, obstructs, impedes, hinders, or confuses any fielder attempting to make a play. And that is the important part right there. Any fielder attempting to make a play. Also look at the approved ruling, which mentions that interference does not have to be intentional for it to be called. So if in your judgment you rule interference, the ball is immediately dead, and all runners return to the last base that was legally touched at the time of the interference. But also in this situation, the batter runner would be awarded first base. Now, as you can see, we didn't call it, and I don't think anybody noticed it. I thought we might have interference, and we talked about it post-game. But it's good to be able to go back and review film, so I'm better prepared the next time I see it.
Now batting for Mid-City, number 7, Caden Hilfer.
I love Caden's wind-up stance. He looks like he's like a bodybuilder flexing like, I imagine if that stance evolves over time, he could be like Kimbrel 2.0. And he's got the arm to match his attitude. Look at him just freeze this batter right in his tracks. There's no time limit on how long a pitcher needs to come to a complete stop, but they must actually come to a complete and discernible stop, and a change of direction is not the same thing. Here it is again. The Little League rulebook is pretty specific about the penalty for a pitcher bringing their pitching hand in contact with their mouth or lips while in contact with the pitcher's plate. There is no warning for this violation, and the umpire shall immediately call a ball and warn the pitcher that repeated violation of any part of this rule can cause the pitcher to be removed from the game. Now, they can go to their mouth or lips while they're in the pitching circle, but just not when they're in contact with the pitching plate. And even then, they need to distinctly wipe off the pitching hand before contacting the ball.
Yeah! Nice job, Landon! Great play, buddy! Stop, T-Town! That was not easy.